Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CT Sports Report. My name is Cody, here with my partner in crime, Chris Calicut. Chris, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, Cody. I hope you are as well, my friend. Long time no see for the podcast. It's been a little while,
Yeah.
but hey, we're back. Hopefully, somewhat better, but probably not better than ever. But hey, we'll give it a shot. But what's up, everybody out there? This is our first time on Google Hangouts on air. We're also simulcasting on the Roar app. That's R-A-U-R. And you can also find that at Insta Radio as well, I do believe. So check that out. And we're going live with the CT Sports Report for the first time. And you'll get the link on YouTube after the show as well.
Absolutely, yes. Me and Chris are doing something different, trying to get our beautiful radio faces out there.
Faces for radio.
Yeah, nonetheless. But here, we wanted to try something. Yeah, the lighting's bad. Yes, we're on a computer. Yes, we're on a beautiful microphone.
There's a light switch right there.
Yeah, too bad it doesn't work. But anyway, nonetheless, me and Chris are here to provide you our opinions and wonderful hot takes, and him with the common sense.
Yep, they're supposed to figure out which is which. Come on, remember?
They're gonna know by the time this is over.
Right. You're right.
But nonetheless, we're here to provide you with some wonderful entertainment here from the 336, originally from the 919.
Yeah, both those.
Just a few things to remember before we start the show. Always follow us on Twitter at CT_Sports Report, and also try to find us on Facebook. CT Sports Report. We're also there. We're trying to get the Facebook up and running, but Twitter is mainly where we are going to do our work.
You'll find some live tweets on there, some events, some beard twirling, but you know.
Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry Chris is so dark. He's got that tan at the wonderful beaches he's been going to, and nonetheless,
non-existent.
I am Paul Bunyan's cousin. But nonetheless, let's get to the things that we'll be running down today. First of all, we'll be talking a little bit about the playoffs in terms of how things have progressed throughout the time, and then where we end up with the final two teams in the golden age of Super Bowl 50. And then a few other things that we'll be talking about.
Oh, all the teas with the teams and then nothing? I was ready to do the round. No?
If no one knows the two teams,
you probably shouldn't be listening.
You don't like sports. You don't like sports if you don't know the two teams that are in the Super Bowl. But if you did watch any of the two games, like Chris said, there's two very distinctive noises that come from each team. We'll start with the Broncos,
right,
whatever that is, the neighing of a horse,
of a bronco,
and then the only sound that is remotely known by Carolina fans, it's ridiculous. Nonetheless, but we'll be touching on some Super Bowl topics, covering some playoff news that happened throughout all the playoffs. Chris will be touching on the Royal Rumble just a little bit, and then North Carolina's favorite son right now, Steph Curry.
I was going to say P.D. Pablo, since he did a hype video for the Panthers.
Wasn't it good?
It was good.
I almost made me wanted to be a Panthers fan.
Almost. For you.
But nonetheless, we'll go off, and Chris will do a little playoff recap. If you do see me enjoying a little beverage here, I will say shout out to 2H Brewing. It's my home brewing. Phil Howard, Leslie Harris, my wonderful fiance.
Which one, Phil or Leslie?
Man, that's funny. That is funny. But nonetheless, you will see our Wit, There It Is the name of this one that I'm enjoying. But nonetheless, Chris is going to get us started. Like I said, I know he said common sense and hot takes, and you can figure out which one's which. But this is going to be a segment where you know which one is going to be what.
All right. Little sidetrack from our little script that you can't see, thank goodness. Listening to my friend Bomani Jones on the way here. And Cam Newton basically did the sports writer's job for them today at his press conference. He said, I'm an African-American quarterback and with skills that you may not have seen before, and that scares you to death.
I mean, this is true. That's the big thing in the media, whether it's what you see on CNN or what you see on ESPN.
Right.
A white man like me and you, we are supposedly scared of any African-American black figure who is doing better than us. There's no other way to say it other than that.
And the way they sort of worded it, Bomani, is and Shannon Penn from the 919, actually on the Joe and Adam Gold show there in Raleigh.
Yep.
Moved up in the world just a smidgen. But their thing was that he is Superman, but also a black man. And that's two things that Western America doesn't really want to be synonymous.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate for where we stand. I mean, of course, me and you, we don't play that card. I mean, especially where I stand in terms of some stuff that's happened in my life.
Absolutely.
That we wouldn't mention, but it's ridiculous that's where we have came from. I mean, nonetheless, if Cam Newton scares white people, he should be an influence to African Americans.
Absolutely.
I mean, the man has done so much for the sport. I know he had nicknames like Scam Newton and a lot of other things like that, but he's taken a city that,
or two states, really, if you want to think about it.
I mean, you're exactly right about that. And they've taken them in terms of Carolina was irrelevant ever since the 2003 Super Bowl, where we saw a little stuff that we shouldn't have seen on TV.
Janet Jackson, my girl.
I know, right? So he's taking it from something. When Ron Rivera took them and they've only won 2 games in his first year to now they're 15-1. Nonetheless, it's just ridiculous how America views athletes when they're African American. Again, we are not to be speaking on this subject.
No, not at all. I'm just sort of thinking because ESPN has to have their headlines. And when you have your journalist like Bomani, who is very smartly, I'm not going to call him racist because he's not. He's a smart and educated guy who can talk about this topic in a sensible way. Yeah, but Stephen A. Smith and he and Skip Bayless are, the shock jocks of our generation, and that's unfortunately what ESPN has modeled their whole programming about. They embrace debate, but Stephen A. Smith is actually saying that Cam Newton will be villainized.
I mean, and this is true, and I know me and Chris had this conversation before the pod started, and the big thing is Cam being villainized because he's black/African American, or in terms of what they said on the Mecca, is he being villainized because he's the person who's going to take away Peyton Manning's spotlight?
Right, and with that said, we can sort of seamlessly transition into, is this Peyton Manning's last ride, and will he ride into the sunset?
Absolutely, yes. We've all heard, and if you're a sports fan, you have heard to where Bill Belichick and Peyton Manning, when they met in the middle of the field after the AFC Championship, where one of the first things Peyton said, where everyone was like, "Oh my God, did you hit a recording?" was, "I just want to let you know, this may be my last rodeo." And again, I'm paraphrasing. This is not an exact quote.
Sure.
"This may be my last rodeo. It's been fun competing against you." And of course, Belichick's like, you're a great player. I hope you go all the way.
Yeah.
First of all, that tells you how great of a person Belichick is in terms of being able to tell you exactly how he feels about Peyton.
And a better listener if you can actually understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But nonetheless, I mean, it's going to be a crazy Super Bowl. Like I said in our pregame before this, when I was telling everybody, to listen to us tonight, this is the most expensive Super Bowl in history.
Yeah, I mean, that's combined with ticket sales because you got a good-sized stadium. You've got so much merch that's already been made.
Yep.
You've got the halftime show that's supposedly going to be the biggest ever, which cannot be the biggest ever with Coldplay as your headliner. Sorry to those mellow pop fans.
Hey-oh.
But yeah. So going along with this, we've came up with a couple of stats, and we'll get to the rundown to how we got here in just a minute. But I just want to throw out some cool stats I saw today as I was sort of prepping here. You go ahead and sit up, look a little taller. All right, Rock, calm down. Nice. There you go. But with that said, all right, here's Peyton Manning's stats for this year. 9 touchdowns, 17 picks. That's usually Peyton Manning. He's going to throw a few picks just because he's a gunslinger. Always has been, always will be. But as many people have pointed out, he's lost a couple of MPHs on the velocity. So the reason I say that is he now has 6.8 yards per completion this year. That is the lowest since his rookie year. That's a 15-year illustrious career that he varied from around 7 to 9 yards per catch, or yards per completion, excuse me. But now he's 6.8 this year. So, with that said, you have Josh Norman as a corner. Good corner, Pro Bowl corner. I'm not going to say he's great yet. He's going to earn his contract year. Cortland Finnegan came out of retirement just to be on the Carolina Panthers. So, you look at your linebacking core of the Panthers, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, who has a broken arm but says he will play, and even the backups, A.J. Klein, Shaq Thompson, I believe, they have linebackers for days. Unless you get a run game going if you're Denver, you're not going to get that short to middle level pass game. You're going to have to take some of those shots on the opposite side of the field from Josh Norman. You're going to have to.
Well, and here's the thing, and it's something that you noticed definitely during the Steelers game and the Patriots game, is that, I mean, it's cold in Denver. You're a mile high from the ocean.
Yep.
It's going to be a little bit frigid. Now, not as frigid as it would have been in Foxborough.
No.
If the Patriots hadn't screwed up and not gotten the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed as they were. But nonetheless, where things stand, the way Peyton is playing in cold weather, like I said, here's my fun fact of the day. I'm probably sharing this too early. Manning, before the playoffs, before this year's playoffs, was 0-5 in cold weather, under 40 degrees. He's now 2-5. He's won the game against the Steelers and the game against the Patriots. Now, that being said, the only reason he won the game against the Patriots had nothing to do with offense. It was nothing but defense that won them that game. So it comes down to where Peyton's going to be in a comfortable environment like he was in the Dome in Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Field, of course. He's going to be back in a comfortable environment to where if it's not raining and it's beautiful weather, like what did I have here? 60 degrees.
Yeah, 60 degrees and
in
partly
San Francisco.
sunny. I mean,
yeah, partly cloudy, partly. I mean, you know, whatever you look at, he's going to be in comfortable territory to be able to make a run and throw the ball against the Panthers, no matter how good their secondary is, which it is great. I say great very lightly because you know how I feel about the Panthers.
And I was actually starting to talk you off the cliff there a little bit because, I mean, I don't know if the secondary is great based on the safeties are just – they're good.
Yeah.
They're not fantastic. And then you have Finnegan, who's 35, 36 years old back there, trying to keep up with Demaryius Thomas. I mean, that scares me a little bit as a Panthers fan from day one, mind you. I do not bandwagon jump when typical. So I've been there since 1995, 5-ish
is when they first played their first.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was in that ballpark.
How do I know this?
I don't know.
Nonetheless,
useless sports knowledge.
Nonetheless, I mean, it does come down to where, I mean, if this is Peyton's last hurrah, which if it is, the dude's had a great career. Yes, he's only has 1 ring if he loses to the Panthers, but Peyton Manning and his forehead have had the greatest career of any quarterback in terms of knowledge of the game that you have ever seen.
And marketability. I mean, gosh, look at all the commercials, all the endorsements.
Yeah.
And those will continue, mind you.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be a great hit on SNL when he retires.
Oh, absolutely. But one last stat to hit you with. I told you the earlier stat to tell you this. In the postseason, which have been primarily cold games, his completion per attempt is 5.8 yards, even lower than his average. So, but he has been more efficient. Instead of the 9 TDs and 17 picks, 2 touchdowns, no picks.
Nonetheless, when we talk a little later about our Super Bowl predictions, you will see that the only reason that they may win this game is because of their defense.
Because you have the number 1 defense in the Broncos.
True that.
Going against the number 1 overall offense in the Panthers, or the number 1 scoring offense.
Right.
And a main reason of that, the most likely MVP of the year.
If not, it's a shame.
Exactly. And that's Mr. Cameron Newton. And a guy who that I believe, even with all his antics, and we might can get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Has matured on the field, even if he may not, if he hasn't done so off the field.
Yeah, and let's be real. I mean, a lot of the times in the NFL, the type of quarterback that Cam Newton is, the I'll run on you and run over you kind of mentality, does not work in the NFL.
No.
Your quarterbacks that you see win championships, aside from Russell Wilson, which I still believe is a fluke, but nonetheless, Aaron Rodgers, pocket passer. Tom Brady, pocket passer. Roethlisberger.
No, wait a minute. Hold on.
Pocket passer.
Tom Brady had the most rushing yards for his team last week.
I mean, when you only have 50-something yards and your quarterback rushes for 13 on one play, that's a shame.
My goodness.
That is an absolute shame. But nonetheless, these are your quarterbacks who win championships. You cannot tell me that a mobile quarterback has won a Super Bowl except for Russell Wilson. And you can say that, but he can't even see over his offensive line, so I don't even consider him a quarterback.
And I'm trying. Whoa, that was deep. And I'm trying to think. And please correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't have any of my little Google resources here at the moment. Steve Young, mobile quarterback. Cameron Newton just literally passed him on, rushing touchdowns for a quarterback by the time he was 30.
I mean,
and that was for his career, Steve Young.
I understand. Yeah, and that was for his career.
Yeah, and
Cam's done this in 3 years.
Five.
Nonetheless, he is one of the. Cam Newton should be playing tight end. He should not be a quarterback.
260. 6'6", 260.
Yeah,
that's a large man. And he has ridiculous. A 4.58 40 time.
I mean, we could do that.
Sure, we could.
I don't know
but
that now.
I want to run down some stats for Cam real quick before we get to how we got to this point.
Right.
With that said, Cam had by far his most efficient year with 35 touchdowns and 10 picks. Passer rating of 99.4 as compared to Peyton's 67.9. Peyton's, that's the lowest of his career. Cam's 99.4 is the highest of his career by 10 points. I think it was 88.7 that was his highest before. Here's the kicker. The rushing. Your quarterback has 636 rushing yards with 10 touchdowns and a higher per rush rate than most upper-level running backs. 4.8 yards a rush. That's a healthy game. He's the best third and short option in the entire NFL.
And that's a shame. I just when you watch the NFL, you don't expect a quarterback to be your most prolific rushing option. Now, don't get me wrong. Jonathan Stewart finally showed up in this last game.
Yeah.
I understand he had been hurt. He got elected to the Pro Bowl. Good for him. He deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to come off the injury that he had and to run over the Cardinals defense like he did, it was just a shame.
Yep.
Now, the Cardinals, for some reason, forgot what the playoffs were. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, Carson Palmer never been one to show up in the big moments. Definitely did not last weekend. But the reason I brought up the rushing stats is you have two defensive ends named Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. Pro Bowl level for many years, both of them.
I mean, legendary future Hall of Famers.
Absolutely. And Cam has an offensive line that is capable, but not fantastic.
Well, here's the thing you got to look at as well. Depending on the beat writer that you read about, Brady was either hit 20 times,
sure,
or 25. In terms of actually physically getting hit, not him being rushed and a pass being blocked. He was physically touched and knocked to the ground 20 to 25 times on Sunday. Now, here's the thing. Stats show that Wade Miller
Okay.
Wade Phillips.
Wade Phillips.
Where did Miller come from?
I have no clue.
I got a UNCG glass here, guys. It's probably Wes Miller. He's on the line.
Yeah.
Beautiful guy. Anyway, nonetheless, it comes to the point that Wade Phillips, former Cowboys coach,
he's
defensive coordinator for the Broncos.
Fantastic coordinator.
Exactly. He didn't rush that much. I don't know the stats, but he only sent 3 to 4 people over 80% of that game at Brady, which means they were reaching him, only rushing 3 to 4 people the whole game.
I mean, they weren't bringing linebackers. They weren't bringing safeties.
They weren't blitzing. They were putting everyone against Edelman, Amendola, and Gronkowski.
Yeah.
Which,
they were doubling Gronk.
If I'm not mistaken, they held those 3 right at 100 yards, maybe a little less. I want to say it was a 90-some, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just ridiculous how Wade Phillips had them dialed in.
Yeah.
I mean, it is ridiculous. I'll keep saying it, and I'll say it through this whole podcast. The only reason the Broncos will win is if their defense showed up like it did against New England.
Yep. And the reason I bring those two fine gentlemen's names, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, Cam has to run. He has to use his ability, I think, to get through the center of their defensive line. If we have the offensive tackles that can do it, to basically throw them off their scent. Because even though the Panthers receiving core thought to be awful, has been competent. And at sometimes really good. So, I mean, Cam's got the arm to take those chances, but if you work in Cam, if he starts working in that read option where he's got it, Jonathan Stewart's got it, or he can throw the one over the top.
Yeah.
That's where they're going to come in with their variety, and offensive coordinator Mike Shula is going to have their best chance to win there.
Yeah, and you have to think that there's only 2 combinations in the league to me that are significant.
Okay.
The first one, the combination, is Tom Brady to Gronkowski.
Yeah.
The second,
I know where you're going.
Yeah.
My boy.
Newton and
Greg Olsen.
Exactly. Those 2, it's just ridiculous how all the we played fantasy football. We're on the same league. Leslie, she loves
Greg
it.
Olsen on my team. You won me many a game.
And then I started playing FanDuel, and he was my tight end every week.
Absolutely.
That it is ridiculous how teams do not respect Greg Olsen. He is open every Sunday.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
And the reason is, if you don't mind me jumping in, and that's the reason. Ted Ginn either bought stock and stick 'em for his gloves, but that boy can run past anybody in this league. Now that he's actually catching those bombs, that opens up the mid-level for Greg all day long.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. I know that linebackers a lot of times cannot cover the tight end. That's just a stereotype that happens, especially with you have to put a linebacker on Gronk because no one's big enough to cover him.
There 2 linebackers on Gronk,
unfortunately. But Greg Olsen, he's not that big, but he just wants to win. He's not one of those people you see celebrating, doing the dab on the sidelines with everyone taking the pictures, pointing west that they're going to San Francisco. I mean,
that was kind of clever, by the way.
I mean, it was, but nonetheless, heading west by Lions and Liars. Nonetheless,
oh boy, another plug.
But nonetheless, it's just ridiculous how open he's been.
Sure.
The game when I go back to the Seattle game in the middle of the season to where he's wide open at the 20-yard line and just walks into the end zone against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
At CenturyLink. Yeah, I know they're saying that, their corner, he just came off an injury and all that stuff.
Wow.
But, I mean, nonetheless, this is a tight end that you cannot leave open.
Nope.
He's not going to murder you with more than anything between 8 and 12 yards. But, hey, that's a first down every 2 plays and sometimes every 1 play.
Exactly.
I mean, it's ridiculous how good Greg Olsen really is. And I hate to say it, even though I'm not a Panthers fan, he's a great asset to Charlotte in terms of all the things that he does for that community.
With that, and with that said, also nominated as the Panthers representative for NFL Man of the Year.
Yes.
So kudos to him on that one.
Rightfully deserved.
So, with all this little teasing and stats and opinions all set up, let's tell you how we got here.
Oh, God. I don't even know if I want to talk about it. Go ahead. I'll go where you go.
It's been somewhat fun. Let's talk about the least fun game that I saw the whole time.
Maybe we should save that for last. But go ahead.
Let's knock it out. Let's go wild card weekend, and that was the Chiefs and the Texans. Poor Brian Hoyer.
Was that even a game?
Poor Brian Hoyer. 30-0.
Yeah.
For the Chiefs on that one.
Yep.
Hoyer had 4 picks, did not look comfortable at all, jittery feet. Alex Smith, the quote-unquote game manager, as he's always been, but guess what? He went to the divisional playoffs again.
Yep.
17 for 22 and a touchdown in that one. So Chiefs advanced to the divisional round. Next game we had up was the Steelers and Bengals. Let's just stop for a minute.
Can we talk about this one? I mean, we're 30 minutes into the podcast.
That week has been about 30 minutes on this one.
I mean,
it was the absolute sportsmanship, lack of control. I love both guys as coaches, Mike Tomlin, Marvin Lewis, very well respected head coaches in the business. Neither, I don't think, could control their team. Not necessarily their fault, I don't think, because you have the characters on your roster that you're told to manage.
Yep.
But sometimes they just go off the script, just like we're doing right now.
Yep, absolutely. So here's the thing: being a Steelers fan, there's no fact about that. Just to cover that real quick, my dad was a Steelers fan before the Panthers ever existed. I adopted the team.
Right.
Going back to where we really stand right now, it was an absolute ridiculous game for me to watch. I mean, both teams were absolutely ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
But what it comes down to, and this is not – I'm not praising the Steelers in anything they done.
Mm-mm. And it was actually their coaching staff that provoked most of one of the assistant coaches.
Well, Joey Porter, I don't even know why he's a coach, but that's besides the point.
Touché.
But what it comes down to is that, and I've heard this from beat writers, podcasts, my own brain, it's ridiculous. This is the destiny of the Bengals. They are not allowed to win a game in the playoffs. I think this is their, 8th straight game they've lost in the playoffs? I mean, it's ridiculous.
And I'm not trying to say that it would have been much different with Andy Dalton because he has the track record of choking in the big game too.
Yep.
I think A.J. McCarron handled himself decently well, especially in the second half once he got a little more comfortable.
Look, but two people lost that game, and I understand Joey Porter shouldn't have been out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's besides the point. Now, we should have got the 15-yard penalty off Burfict's hit on Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
That was a hit on a defenseless receiver.
Yep.
And I don't care if Antonio Brown got up and winked at Pat Man Jones or whatever happened there. That's besides the point. That was an illegal hit, and when he shouldered him in the ear hole, he just walked away like it was nothing. Being a Steelers fan, I would be honest if Brown messed up. Now, Joey Porter should not have been on the field, 15-yard penalty on him.
Right.
Should have been offset in penalties when Pac-Man Jones jumped over the ref to push Joey Porter.
Yeah.
Now, he should have pushed Joey. I'd have pushed Joey Porter. But you cannot push a referee out of the way to get to somebody like that.
And Burfict, gosh, he was the hero and the villain because he's the one that got the play.
He was the MVP of that game.
And the idiot ran to the tunnel like he was leaving the stadium like the game was over. I just called it right there.
He Forrest Gumped it.
But anyways, terrible show of sportsmanship there by, honestly, both teams. More so the Bengals than the Steelers. And I'll be the first to admit that. But with that said, let's move on from that joke of the game. A really cold game, speaking of cold. -20 wind chills on this one.
I think second coldest game in NFL history is what it was.
Seahawks 10, Vikings 9. Blair Walsh.
R.I.P.
My man. Kickers, not the most well-respected gentleman in the league.
Yeah.
I guess, let me put it this way. I don't think they've released him yet.
They won't.
And they might not, but your boy missed, and I mean, straight duck hook like I'm on a driving range.
Yo, that was me. That was me coming off the tee right there.
The 27-yarder, 6 yards less than this year's extra point, and just straight.
It was bad.
But that's pretty much all you need to know about that one. Cold, lots of running, not a whole lot of big stats there.
Yep.
Just a good competitive game overall. Nice showing for the Vikings, honestly. A good young team that's, I think, is on the rise.
Yeah, so, nonetheless, they'll be good next year as long as they keep all their players. I will say I believe the right team won in that situation in terms of what we needed moving forward. But nonetheless,
right. Packers 35, Redskins 18. I think the Skins jumped out to like a 10 or 13-0 lead. And then the Packers decided to be the Packers, which they had not been for about the previous 6 to 8 games. They've been a little iffy.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, not quite the same Aaron Rodgers that we're used to. But in this one, what was pretty solid, especially in the second half on. Redskins, another team, Kirk Cousins is probably going to get a contract from this year because he brought him back to at least mediocrity, and Redskin fans at this point will be pretty darn happy with mediocrity.
You like that?
I mean,
you like that?
Oh, I forgot. I forgot that's what he said.
Oh, my God. Look.
But, all right. But Cousins, again, going to get his contract, most likely.
Unfortunately.
Well, where does RG3 go from here?
RG knee?
Oh.
I'm sorry. So subject.
Oh.
But nonetheless, look, here's the thing. The Redskins, the Washington professional football team.
Oh, I forgot about that.
They have no direction in life. I know our boy Champ, huge fan of the Skins. They have no direction in life in terms of what they're going to do. So it's going to be fun to see what they do with RG3.
Yep.
He's gone. He's never going to play another down for the Redskins.
No, I'm interested to see who will pick him up and if he's able to throw in there for a starting job somewhere on a lower echelon team. I mean, next thing I would say go to the Raiders. I would say go to the Raiders, but then was it Derek Carr?
Derek Carr's having a great season.
He just got nominated to the Pro Bowl.
Can I tell you, there's been over 130 people nominated for the Pro Bowl this year.
That's a lot.
So we're just going to put the Pro Bowl down here on the floor and just leave it there.
You got to look at half of them are probably in the Super Bowl.
Yes. Nonetheless, here's my thing. My prediction for where RG3 ends up, Denver. We'll move on. Go ahead, Chris.
No Brock Osweiler for you next year?
Look, I'm not saying he's going to play.
Okay.
But I feel like John Elway has a thing in his head here. He's going to end up in Denver.
All right. Going to the divisional round. Patriots 27, Chiefs 20. The score is a little closer than the game was. The Patriots dominated just about throughout.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman, 10 receptions, 100 yards. Had a nice game there.
Yeah. Not too much to talk about that game there. I mean, the Chiefs, they were tired, undermanned due to injuries. I feel like the Chiefs, if Andy Reid ever learns how to work a clock, they would be so good.
Yeah, you would.
Oh my goodness,
he would learn how to do this.
Here he is saying, "Oh yeah, no, we had that plan. We're not going to call a timeout and use all of our timeouts before the 4-minute mark in the last quarter." Andy Reid, you are an idiot. Like, I have no other words for that except I'm watching this game and I'm like, Andy Reid is an idiot. I mean, my dog, who's back here whining behind us, she could call a better game than Andy Reid.
Lolo is pretty smart.
God, continue, man. Andy Reid, I love the Chiefs. My Barker boys love the Chiefs.
Yep.
Huge Chiefs fans, but my goodness, until Andy Reid learns how to work a clock, that team is ridiculous.
And moving on, I'm going to skip over the game of that week for now.
Go ahead.
Panthers 31, Seahawks 24. Panthers were leading 31-0.
Yeah, that was my thing, and it's always going to be my thing for at least for the Super Bowl. If the Panthers can reach 24 points, they will win the game. If they score
20, I think if they break 20.
False. If they cannot get over 24 points, they will lose.
Ooh.
If Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware roll up in the Super Bowl how they did against the Patriots, my money's on it. But nonetheless, that was a ridiculous game. The Panthers almost let that slip away. It was hard to watch. The Panthers let that game go.
And this is me with this game. And they said they didn't, but I have two eyes and a pretty decent sports mind.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
All right, but they said they didn't let off the gas pedal. Yes, they did.
Oh man, they went to second gear real quick.
Lord, they downshifted and put it in freaking neutral.
Yeah,
and almost reverse.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, here's my thing. The Seahawks, they are Americans' darlings. Let's be real.
Are they?
I mean, at least last year, going into this year, until the Panthers became Americans' darlings. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, I just dabbed on them, folks.
I'm just saying, the Seahawks and the Panthers, the two biggest bandwagon teams in the NFL. I digress.
Small markets that come out of nowhere, and that's where your internet darlings come from. Your fans, your merch, and all that stuff.
This is true. This is true. But here's my thing: the Seahawks.
Yeah,
they were only 1 or 2 plays away from winning that game. If it was not for Carolina's defense being able to control them in the first half and scaring them to where I think the Seahawks is like, oh my God, we're so close. But
right,
we got Kuechly and Davis, the 2 linebackers. Kuechly and Davis caused havoc against the Seahawks.
Oh yeah.
So, but nonetheless, the Seahawks, I ultimately believe, should have won that game.
Yep.
If it hadn't been such a ruckus in the first quarter. That game was won in the first quarter. Yes, the Panthers almost let it go, which before the playoffs, in the last 5 games of the NFL regular season, the Panthers had allowed the most fourth quarter points of any team in the NFL.
Yep.
That has continued.
Yeah.
Except for the Cardinals game, throwing it out. That has continued into the playoffs.
Yep.
They have allowed more fourth quarter points than any other team in the NFL.
And that for that reason, that scares me. And with Peyton's clutch gene, that's just one thing as a Panthers fan that you're slightly worried about. But that was a nice divisional round game. And then possibly what I think was it was a really good game was your Steelers versus the Broncos. And the Broncos came out on top of 23-16 in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. That game was so much of a shock to me. Like I said, being a Steelers fan, of course, I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible on the pod here. But in terms of where the Steelers stood, not having Antonio Brown, having 2 backup running backs that you've never heard before in
what is it, Martavis? Is that how you pronounce his name, the receiver? He had
Martavis Bryant.
Yeah,
number 10, the one with the under the leg.
Yeah.
Foot.
Yeah, he had I think 116 yards. I don't have it written down. Yeah. It was over 100 yards. He made Antonio Brown look like he was there.
But going back to the running backs, Toussaint and Redmond, 2 running backs you had never even heard before.
No, and they were proficient.
I think Toussaint was the backup at Michigan.
Oh wow!
Okay. In terms of how far we're going back, one of them. I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that. But nonetheless, I know everyone's blaming Toussaint for the fumble that happened that led to the touchdown for the Broncos. Look, Redmond and Toussaint, this was their first or second real game. I mean, it's ridiculous. They did a great job for where they were at.
Sure.
Yes, it was the Steelers' game to lose for the most part. Look, the Steelers' defense is awful. Everything in their secondary, except for like 1 or 2 linebackers who they rotate in. Shazier, who is just out there. He's not that good. He's getting older, but he plays with so much more heart than anybody. Our defensive line is fine. We'll stop the run. Oh, my goodness, the Steelers' secondary is awful.
As you said earlier in the year in one of our wonderful podcasts,
the shower curtain.
They went from the steel curtain
to the shower curtain. It is ridiculous.
Oh, that was your football and football podcast, actually.
So
look at me.
But look, that was absolutely awful. But nonetheless, the Broncos deserved to win that game because they kept playing, where the Steelers did not keep playing. Because once Toussaint fumbled the ball, it was over. No one else wanted to play that game for the black and gold. So I do definitely respect the Broncos in terms of where they were at. Look, their defense, number 1 defense in the NFL, and this is not just me making stuff up. This is stats, is where it's at. So their defense, not Peyton Manning. I know Peyton Manning is the legend in the NFL. Peyton Manning will not win a Super Bowl. The defense of the Denver Broncos will win the Super Bowl. Go ahead to where we're going.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. I get worked up.
But the divisional round game of the week, by far as drama and ridiculousness, was the Cardinals over the Packers in what was probably the game of the playoffs thus far.
Ridiculous. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what kind of drugs he's on.
I want some.
I want to be on whatever he's on. But it's just ridiculous. I mean, and it was also Carson Palmer's last hope in terms of ever being a good quarterback in that game.
Yep.
But no, that game, if you have NFL Network or anything DVR'd from that game, just go watch it.
Yeah. I mean,
that will make you live your whole life from birth to death in one game.
And one guy who is closer to his NFL career ending, if you want to do the analogy there, was Larry Fitzgerald. Been a fantastic receiver for so many years.
Yep.
Dreads just a flowing and going from one end to the other. And that guy, man, Larry Fitzgerald took that team on his back and won that game for the Cards.
Absolutely. It's a fun game to watch. But now we're getting to the last Sunday that just happened.
Yep.
The one that leads us into Super Bowl Golden.
Yep, the conference championship round. We'll start off in the AFC since that one was on first. I was running a 2 TV system last Sunday, by the way.
I saw.
That was fun. But with the final score in this one, very back and forth game, a little tit for tat. Broncos 20, Patriots 18.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Everyone's talking about how Gostkowski missed that extra point in the first half.
First one he's missed. Was it ever?
I mean, I
think it was ever.
I'd have to check. But my thing is they kept talking about how, this is a game changer. This is going to be the reason that they lose, blah, blah, blah. Look, here's the thing. Gostkowski did not lose that game for the Patriots.
No.
DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller won that game for the Broncos. Look,
they were everywhere.
Neither quarterback showed up.
No, not really.
Peyton Manning doesn't even know that he exists right now.
He has a 55% completion rating in the playoffs.
Yeah, look, and Tom Brady, he was crying, just hoping to get back home to Giselle as quick as he could.
I mean, you can't blame the fella, obviously.
I know, right?
But he's in a pretty good spot there.
Yeah.
But the one interesting note on that one is, and this is just irony at its finest. You have Deflategate, you have Spygate.
Oh, Lord.
You hear teams that come in and say, the quarterback's headset's not quite working the way that it should be over in Foxborough. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? No? All right. Anyways.
Am I even plugged in? Anyway.
I don't know. Are you? I don't know. But it's got a headphone splitter. But the Patriots in Mile High Stadium, their Surface Pro 3s weren't working. Their tablets, they couldn't review their plays.
That's a Windows problem.
To me, that's... I don't think the Broncos are doing any voodoo, but I think the irony is still kind of funny.
Yeah.
But with that said, your NFC Championship game, for all intents and purposes, was a blowout. 49-15 for Las Panteras.
Yeah, the Panthers finally decided to close out a game. Now, I say that with a grain of salt.
Right.
Because Carson Palmer, I don't think he knows what the playoffs are.
Well, see, what I equated it to is Carson Palmer did his best Jake Delhomme impression in the Super Bowl, where Jake Delhomme, I think, had 3 picks and 2 fumbles. Carson had 4 picks and 2 fumbles, 6 total turnovers in this game. And, I mean, by the time he got done looking at his Surface Pro, they were already back on the field because the Panthers scored again.
That dude had to stay on the phone with the people upstairs just to figure out what was going wrong.
But Newton was efficient. Nothing that'll really blow you out of the water except for the rushing stats. 19 for 28 passing, 335 yards with 2 throwing TDs, 2 rushing TDs. And that's the way the cookie crumbled on that one.
Yeah.
But now that you've taken the journey to the Super Bowl in the San Francisco Bay Area.
That was a long journey.
At Levi's Stadium, no longer Candlestick Park, brand new park for them.
Hell.
Site of WrestleMania 31. It was. Nice little WWE note for you.
Plug.
But what's the line? Let's talk what Vegas is talking about, what the experts are talking about, because God knows we are the experts as well.
Well, let's just say the line right now
is
and it's a little strange to me.
Yeah.
The line after the championship games, the line was at 3.5 Carolina.
Made sense.
It has now moved up to 4.5 Carolina.
Not as much sense.
And here's the thing, and this is how Vegas works: the more money you're betting on the team, the more they're going to make that spread wider. So the prediction for this game, when we eventually get to Super Bowl Sunday, the Panthers may be favored by as much as 6.5.
And to me, that would be absolutely absurd. I mean, it's not going to be what my pick is here in a minute, but for a Vegas line, that's a wide margin for a Super Bowl who should be the consensus 2 best teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: the way Vegas is trying to make money. So of course, all the Patriots fans, all of the Southeast, is putting money on the Panthers. So when they're getting all that money, they're going to try to make that spread wider to make sure that none of those folks win money.
Now, we're a week and a half away. By all means, it might be 2.5 Broncos by the time we get there. I doubt it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think it'll level out a little bit once those bets keep rolling in. I honestly don't think it's going to get bigger. If it does, it would surprise me. But I would almost see it going either 2.5 or 3.5 to the Panthers.
Yeah, Vegas is trying to make money. Where the spread should be, the spread should be 3.5, no less than 2.5 to the Panthers.
Yeah,
I will say that. I would say 3.5 is probably the best way to go. Right. Now, 4.5 is just trying to get that spread to get people in there to spend money.
Yep.
But that's the thing. Now, if it is anything like I'm predicting that it may go to 6.5 Panthers, there's going to be so much money on Denver, it's not even funny.
No, that's where your back end is going to come in as far as all the betting goes.
Yeah.
But I'm not as much of a betting man, and you're not either. We're just talking for the public there.
Right.
Let's not give our Vegas picks. Let's give our heartfelt picks for Super Bowl 50.
The golden age.
The golden Super Bowl. What is your pick, Mr. T?
Well, Chris, I'd have to say I'm trying to figure out how the script writers for the NFL have it being played out.
Okay.
So I'm going to present 2 sides of the story. We have Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers never winning a Super Bowl, forming in the year 1995.
We're dropping lines on you right now.
And it's do we want them to win, or do we want Peyton Manning? Been around for God knows how long.
Yep.
To go out in what may be his final rodeo, as quoted to Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Do we want him to win on a high note? What I'm going to say in terms of the final score of this game, the final score of this game will be 31-24 to the Broncos.
The what?
The Broncos. Ladies and gentlemen, Peyton Manning knows how to play in warm weather.
31. That's a lot of offense. Or you count for like 2 picks in that. Right?
Ladies and gentlemen, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware will knock the ball out of Jonathan Stewart's hand, and they will cause the great Cam Newton to fumble the ball. Cam Newton will have at least 1 fumble in the Super Bowl. Put money on that. Put money on that.
You bring an interesting point there. I'll actually give you that, because with the strategy I talked about earlier, with him trying to establish the read option, that might cause issues. So you might be onto something there.
Yeah.
And with all these idiotic bets on how long the national anthem will be, all the stupid Super Bowl bets.
God, you can bet on it.
You can the coin flip and everything else.
Well, that's been a disaster the last 3 weeks.
I mean, what if you bet on it during the overtime game the other day? The coin didn't flip.
I know.
The coin didn't flip. You have to try really hard for the coin not to flip.
I blame Roger Goodell for everything.
The coin's weighted.
Anyway.
Being a Panthers fan.
I mean, yeah, you bleed black and blue.
Black, blue. I mean, well, we're repping right now, even though he's no. Okay. But, final score, 31. I already had this in my head. And with Peyton riding off into the sunset, he's going to be Bronco busted. 31-17, Carolina Panthers.
Oh, did you just make an Xbox reference?
From
D-Generation X?
I actually did not go that way, but that's exactly how it turned out.
Oh, my God. All right, so we each have our picks here. Of course, I'm going Broncos just because I believe the NFL script writers, if they exist.
They do. Oh, they do.
A.K.A. Roger Goodell.
Yes,
they're going to pick the Broncos. They want the Broncos. Like me and Chris covered earlier, Cam Newton is the villain. That's besides the point. And also my fun facts, which I told Chris Callicutt that I was going to share. The NFC champs, when they have been 15-1, have only won 2 out of 6 times that they have been to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So they are 2-4 in the Super Bowl when a team coming out of the NFC is 15-1.
Now, with that said, if you look at the quarterback's jersey numbers in this game, Peyton Manning 18, Cam Newton 1. That will be the Panthers' record when they are victorious at Super Bowl 50, 18-1. So that's my fun fact for the day. Hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of the NFL banter. We got a little deeper than I thought we would there. So this might be a somewhat extended podcast, but probably not by very much.
No.
We normally try to cut y'all off at about an hour, but hey, let's run through some WWE stuff real quick. We have the Royal Rumble, WWE's kickoff for the road to WrestleMania, which will be held in AT&T Cowboy Stadium in the Dallas-Fort Worth area this year. With the current championship structure that they had, they weren't going to sell out that place. Sorry, they weren't. There's too many injuries right now. You have John Cena, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Cesaro. The list goes on the amount of injuries that the WWE has right now that will not be available for WrestleMania. So they're scratching and clawing for a card right now. Let's go over the undercard just real quick, knock these out. Divas Championship. I think the best storyline that they've been doing for the past 2 months has been Charlotte along with Pappy Ric Flair. Okay.
Woo!
All right. Defeated Becky Lynch, who has sort of cemented herself as a good babyface for the Divas division. The United States Championship was contested with 2 Mexicans, which is perfectly fine. They're living the American dream. Kalisto, who I think could actually be the next Rey Mysterio Jr., defeated Alberto Del Rio to win the United States Championship for the second time in the last, it's been hot potato with the U.S. Championship right now. The Tag Team Championship, the New Day defeated the Usos to retain their titles in typical heel fashion. And the last man standing match, which I believe was the match of the night besides the Royal Rumble, Dean Ambrose, your champion, retained over Kevin Owens to keep his Intercontinental title.
I love Dean Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose is fantastic.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens is actually, I think, going to be one of the bigger stars because he is very, very old school.
Yep.
He's seasoned. He's been in the Indies for 15 years. The guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he'll be good. He'll be good in a few years.
The little thing.
Yep.
Just like Charles Robinson, I believe it was, they in this match, or no, the night after on Raw, he went to lift his shoulder in victory. Shoulder was taped up. He said, "No, man, the shoulder's hurt. Lift the other one." Just like the little things like that the smart fans like me would notice, and the 12-year-olds at home that cheer for John Cena would not notice. But let's go to what this thing was all about.
AJ Styles?
Shh. Oh, spoiler!
Spoiler.
Okay, since we'll leave with that, Mr. AJ Styles of TNA and Ring of Honor fame.
Yep.
Debuted in the WWE.
One of the best signings by Vince McMahon in a long time.
I wouldn't even say it's a signing by Vince McMahon. All these guys like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, now AJ Styles, Austin Aries just came into NXT. Big names. That's a lot. Triple H. That's Triple H. There's this really.
This is true. But you know who's taking the credit for that?
Well, of course.
Vince McMahon.
Yes. But kudos to Vince and his 70-year-old self to opening the doors to a vet like AJ Styles, who absolutely deserves to be on the big-time stage. But the storyline going into this one was the Authority trying to keep Roman Reigns down.
Yeah.
I hate the way that they're booking Roman Reigns right now.
Yeah.
They're trying to make him into the next John Cena. The underdog. The kids like him. I mean, that's not what he needs to be.
Yeah.
And pardon my French, but he needs to be the silent badass.
Yep.
He does.
He needs to be a heel.
Not necessarily a heel.
Not necessarily a heel, but he needs to be more like the. I hate myself for saying this. He needs to be more like the Taker. He needs to be that silent assassin who comes in when he needs to be a badass and just shut people down. That's exactly what Reigns needs. He doesn't need to speak.
And the most that he's ever been over was after TLC pay-per-view when he came in and cleaned the house and just beat the living daylights out of anybody and anything that was in his way. People were actually cheering him. Smart fans, the 40-year-olds that have been around, since the 80s and 90s that have watched the product religiously, that see right through what they're trying to do, were cheering for him. That's the way they need to book him. They need to get him out of this little rut that they're trying to put him in. They need to quit doing long promos with him, this, that, and the other. But Vince McMahon, being the ultimate heel that he is, has been back on TV and put Roman Reigns in as the first competitor in the Rumble. No way he can keep his title, right? Right. Roman Reigns comes in, gets taken out by the League of Nations, the European/Mexican stable that are heels at this point. Came in, Reigns, of course, went through the bottom rope, over the top, and got beat up, got took out on a gurney.
Yep.
To magically reappear 45 minutes later.
Oh, my God. You talk about some script writers.
I wrote that one in my sleep. But
it's ridiculous.
Some notable entrants. Last year, if you watched, God bless him, Curtis Axel came in, did not reach the ring, was taken out, so obviously claimed that he was never eliminated. So he got in the ring this time, but was fairly quickly eliminated by AJ Styles. Chris Jericho lasted 50 minutes. He was the sixth entrant. And AJ Styles lasted 28 minutes, which is a really long time for a debut. And he was exited by Kevin Owens. R-Truth. Man. He's the comedy character, man. He is now. He's a comedy character.
Oh, yeah.
But, oh, my God, this was hilarious.
How you not? North Carolina native.
His whole gimmick right now is showing up to the wrong thing. I mean, that's his whole gimmick. Yeah. It was like a tag team match, and he came out asking for the United States Open Challenge like the John Cena did 3 months ago. I mean, and he's like, my bad, this one's on me. And he just constantly keeps doing it. So he comes out, gets a 10-foot ladder, and acts like it's Money in the Bank.
Oh, my God.
In the Royal Rumble.
That's ridiculous.
So R-Truth was fantastic. Great little comedy segment there. The whole Wyatt family was there. Sami Zayn of NXT fame re-entered the Rumble. He came at number 20 and was eliminated by the Wyatt family. And, Brock Lesnar, the Beast, came in at number 23 and was also eliminated by the Wyatt family. And I think that's going to set up Bray Wyatt versus Brock Lesnar for Mania.
Well, they're putting him down on the total book.
No, I think they're trying to actually get Bray back up because they've shipped him too far down.
I love Bray. I'm talking about Lesnar.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's putting Lesnar down as much as it is putting Wyatt up the card again.
Right.
But I think they're setting that up for Mania. Should be a decent match because really, if you look at the options, that's the only option that they had. Like I said, Bray Wyatt came in at 27 and was eliminated by the number 30 and your new WWE champion.
It's time to play the game.
Paul Levesque, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H. 46-year-old up-and-comer Triple H.
I wish I looked like that at 46. I wish I looked like that at 25.
All right, but the reason I say this is what I told you at the beginning of this segment, is they were not going to sell out Dallas Cowboys Stadium over 100,000 tickets with Roman Reigns as your champion with no viable heel option to put against him.
That's it.
People are still not attaching to Roman Reigns.
Right.
So, bring in Triple H, full-blown heel, is probably going to give Roman Reigns his WrestleMania moment.
But here's my thing, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, is that when Roman Reigns came back out after his injury, he was being booed by most of the crowd.
Correct.
When Triple H came out, the crowd
went a big pop.
Nuts. So who's really going to end up being the heel here, and which way are they going to take this?
Well, that's the thing, because this is not 1980 where there's clean-cut heels and faces.
That's it.
You have access to the internet. Like, I'm a religious reader of the Wrestling Inc. guys. There's too much information for wrestling to be convenient anymore, or to be real.
Yeah.
You can see right through it.
Yep.
Typically. With a fun little note that we shared off the air was Triple H was the odds-on favorite in Vegas to win the Royal Rumble. And he had not even been advertised as a participant. This was a surprise entrance, which obviously it was not.
But with the talk and stuff that goes on behind the scenes between the wrestling community, he ended up being the favorite to win.
Right.
Because of all these leaks. Chris tells me about leaks all the time. I mean, he reads that stuff. But this is the thing, of course, this is how Vegas is going to make money, and then Vince McMahon is going to screw you over. But nonetheless, this is what happens in terms of people trying to make money, but this is something you can actually bet on.
Yep.
It is ridiculous. Of course, your two favorites to win were Roman Reigns.
Yep.
And then the second one is Triple H. He was actually number one, and Roman Reigns was number two. I apologize for going backwards.
Yeah.
But that's exactly how it happened.
Yeah, well, actually, no. Roman Reigns was out, not next to last, but before that. The right one before that.
Yeah.
So it came down to Triple H and Dean Ambrose, which now sets up for Fastlane, the last pay-per-view before Mania, I believe, for a triple threat to be the number one contender.
Yep.
Dean Ambrose.
Yep.
Roman Reigns.
Yep.
Brock Lesnar.
That's it.
It's going to be a great match. Makes absolutely no sense story-wise if they don't want Roman Reigns near the title.
Yep. Because
you know who's going to win that match. And it would surprise me if it's anybody but Roman Reigns.
Yep.
But with that said, that is your it's not WrestleMania season.
Oh,
right before. Let me slow down.
Like 3 months.
That is your Royal Rumble review. That's a lot of R's. I need to start rolling those.
Yeah.
But golly, we're over an hour already, man.
Man, we covered a lot, man. First of all, I think our favorite sport to cover, at least talking back and forth in terms of how deep we can go, would be NFL. Of course, our favorite sport to watch is college basketball. No doubt about that.
I can't even get to talk crap about Duke.
I
can't.
4 in a row.
There's no time.
4 in a row.
I know.
This exact time last year, the Duke lost 3 in a row.
Well,
and they won the championship. Just putting that out there.
I agree with you there.
They're not doing it this year.
You got to look up and down the roster. Krzyzewski's working with a 6-man rotation.
It's true. It's true. They don't have the
big injuries and a lot of freshmen on that team. I don't foresee them winning a national title this year.
But man, we covered a lot of NFL. You got to talk about WWE. I actually knew what you were talking about without even watching the pay-per-view.
Yeah. I mean, that's
it's ridiculous.
How transparent WWE is.
That is unfortunate. But nonetheless, we're excited that you joined the simulcast.
Yeah.
Which we're sorry about the delay in terms of our lips and the sound and stuff coming out on YouTube. But hey, we're new to this. Just enjoy it.
Hey, hopefully our sound works. We don't know that yet.
Well, the little green dots are moving, so I'm assuming we're okay. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, on Roar and on YouTube, I'm Cody Teague.
I am Chris Calicott.
We thank you for joining the CT_Sports Report for a wonderful wonderful simulcasters of NFL and WWE. Chris, wonderful. Is there anything else that we should say before we leave?
Just be on the lookout since we now live even farther away from each other.
Yeah, this dude moved.
I only moved a little bit, but bad traffic going back home the other way. So what we're going to do with this Google Hangouts on air, you'll see a little box probably right there, and then you'll see we'll be going back and forth and doing this from our own homes. There we go. But we'll be doing this a little more often.
Yeah.
Now that we have a new toy to play with here.
It's crazy.
So we look forward to getting back into the swing of things with the podcast.
Yeah. Real life sucks. All that stuff. Real jobs suck. But nonetheless, you're going to hear at CRT008 on the Roar app, even if you don't see our faces on Google Hangout, which we share on YouTube at the CT.
Whoa.
We had to change it up for YouTube.
Dot?
CT dot.
Okay.
Dot. Sports Report on the YouTube. We'll be sharing it on Facebook and our Twitter platforms to make sure you can get a hold of us. If anything, please write us, direct message, anything else. But other than that, you guys have been great. Please ignore the shadows and the delay. Just listen to us. You ain't even got to look at us.
Please don't.
Trust me, you don't want to.
No.
You don't want to. Faces for radio.
Absolutely.
It's going to be our new hashtag. But nonetheless, we thank you for joining us. And I thank you for a wonderful evening on Google Hangout and YouTube and also on the Roar app. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great night.